With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple at the earliest stage, then Channelchek truly is the orchard. The listed companies support Channelchek, so it's free for you, the potential investor, to gain access to institutional quality research from FINRA-licensed analysts, advanced market data, industry reports, news, and a growing catalog of videos and webcasts. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and register for Channelchek so you're always up to date on what's going on at the small and microcap data place. Welcome to the C-Suite series presented by Channelchek and Noble Capital Markets. Noble is an SEC-registered FINRA-licensed broker-dealer and the source of the equity research available on Channelchek. Today's interview features Capstone Turbine, NASDAQ ticker symbol CPST. Noble Senior Research Analyst Michael Heim interviews Capstone President and CEO Darren Jamison. Visit channelchek.com or click the link in the description for Michael's research on Capstone, as well as news and advanced market data. And now, here's Michael and Darren.
I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Today we have Darren Jamison, President and CEO of Capstone Turbine. Darren, I want to start off from the very basics because we may have some people that aren't even familiar with microturbines. What's a microturbine and how does that work with the current electric system?
Yeah, a microturbine is a small clean energy device, and so we operate behind the meter or at the host site, and so we're making electricity and thermal energy for our customers at a lower cost typically than the utility and usually much greener than the utility. So we're looking to save customers money on their power bills as well as save the environment. Because we are running behind the meter and we are a resilient solution, we give folks backup power as well. So it's a prime power solution, but we also give you backup power in case of an emergency or a natural disaster.
You mentioned the turbines kick off thermal heat. I imagine that makes it a good use for drying. What are some of your largest customers?
Yeah, our largest customers on the thermal side, obviously are hospitals, hotels like Kaiser Hospital, Hilton, Marriott, big industrial manufacturers, Mohawk Carpet and Tile, Pepsi, Magna International, automotive companies. Anybody who's got thermal energy in the form of hot water, chilled water, steam, direct drying, those are all applications for us. And a lot of people think about electricity as being the only energy that you need to provide, but the reality is you've got to provide thermal energy as well, because we all need heating, cooling, drying, and all the other forms of thermal energy.
And your turbines are able to use many different fuel sources. How is that an advantage to you, and how does that change as we talk about different customers and different locations?
Yeah, it's all about flexibility. And so we want to come to a customer and tailor a solution that meets their needs, that gives them the best economic benefit, the best environmental benefit, and the best resiliency. And so being able to run on natural gas is great, but natural gas is not either priced correctly or abundantly available in all parts of the world. So if it's, Margaritaville in St. Thomas, we're running on propane. It could be butane in Africa. It could be biogas for wastewater treatment plants, landfills, cow manure, chicken manure, pig manure. It could be biogas for a brewery like we do for Ambev or for Sierra Nevada Brewery. So it really just depends on what fuel they have available. We'll set the microturbines up to run on that fuel, and it's about fuel availability and obviously cost.
You mentioned some of the renewable uses. Tell us a little bit more about that. You're in a bit of an envious position to be both economically competitive, but also viewed as the environmentally green fuel.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough. We're cheaper than fuel cells, but we're similar in emission rates. Fuel cells are better when you have large electrical loads. We're better when you have electrical and thermal loads both, and we're also a little more flexible on starting and stopping and size and weight and other things. But the good news is because we can run on multiple fuels, it allows us to run on some of the newer fuels that people are looking for. Renewable natural gas, hydrogen's a big push right now. Just biogas in general. I mentioned cow manure, chicken manure, pig manure. These are huge opportunities for us. Every landfill in the world should have a microturbine. Every wastewater treatment plant in the world should have a microturbine. We shouldn't waste those biogases.
You mentioned hydrogen. Talk a little bit more about what you're doing with hydrogen.
Yeah, hydrogen is one we've been watching for about 10 years. We actually developed a hydrogen injector about 2 years ago. How fast we develop our hydrogen program is really dictated on how fast the market generates specifically green hydrogen and at what price. And so hydrogen is a great fuel. It has some challenges from us from a combustion standpoint, but nothing we can't overcome. Today we're approved for 10% hydrogen. We're taking orders for 20% hydrogen blend mix. We've got a clear path to 100% hydrogen. But how fast we move really just depends on R&D dollars and how fast we want to develop that program. But definitely, I think green hydrogen is coming. The new administration is going to push hydrogen very hard. We're seeing it in Europe, we're seeing it in Japan, we're seeing it in Australia. And so hydrogen is definitely part of the future. And I think it really needs to be a blend. I think, using natural gas in some areas is the right answer. Hydrogen blend in other areas may be the answer. If you've got renewable, cheap green hydrogen, then 100% hydrogen is the answer. So it's no silver bullet, it's a silver shotgun approach for coming up with the best economic savings, the best environmental savings for our customers.
It seems to me like we're starting to see growth start to take off a little bit. You had a very good quarter, the December quarter, almost 20% top line year over year type of growth. How sustainable is that, or does that more represent kind of a pent up demand that we might not see continuing?
No, we've got a very aggressive growth plan we put in place. Obviously, the pandemic has dampened that a little bit. We put a new direct sales organization in place last January and February, and then March we slammed into the pandemic. Most of my new sales folks I've never met in person, and they can't get on an airplane. So very challenging to meet customers and develop relationships when we're doing that. Our goal is to do larger scale rollouts with larger companies, hospitals, hotels, industrial companies, automotive manufacturing. But that's challenging to do over Zoom. And so as we can get on airplanes, our direct sales organization takes hold, we should see higher growth rates. Our biggest market today is CHP and energy efficiency. I think under the new Biden administration, there's going to be a lot more incentives and attention put around that. And we're seeing it from customers anyway who care about ESG and their carbon footprint. Oil and gas is our second biggest market, greening the oil fields, decarbonizing the oil fields using associated gas instead of flaring it, running it in the micro-turbine. Oil's over $50 a barrel now, and I think only going to go higher under this current administration. So we see that business picking up as well. And kind of our third market behind those two is biogas, and we're seeing an increase in biogas as well. And so I think if you look at all of our markets, all of the lights are green. The only thing holding us back is COVID, and I think knock on wood, we're all seeing kind of the later innings of that game.
We haven't had a chance to talk since some of the Texas blackouts. I imagine that creates a little bit of interest in your product. What are you hearing from the sales force in terms of interest?
It definitely does. I hate to say it, Superstorm Sandy was our big catalyst in New York. The fires in California have helped us in this market. And when people lose power for an extended period of time, it makes them realize how fragile the electric utility infrastructure really is and how painful it is to go without power for more than a few hours. So I think the resiliency piece of our value proposition gets more valuable to our customers. We've saved our customers $500 million over the last 2 years in energy costs. We've saved them 718,000 tons of carbon. Now, if you add the resiliency piece of that, if that's more valuable to customers, then you really got a three-legged value proposition that's pretty compelling to customers.
You've talked about how you want to grow the service side of things, which is a higher margin and a more stable form of business. It's about 40% of overall revenues now. Do you see that crossing over the 50% level at some point?
It's going to continue to grow every year. We have Goldman Sachs who just upsized our credit facility from 30 million to 50 million to upsize our long-term rental fleet. So that's obviously going to keep growing. We just announced a couple of days ago that we're increasing it to 10.6 megawatts. Our goal is to get to 21 megawatts on that rental fleet and then continue to grow. That is a 70% margin, 30% IRR business. As you mentioned, high margin, good recurring revenue. But if you look at our service contracts, we call it our factory protection plan. We're up to about 58% of our 10,000 units shipped worldwide are under contract. That should continue to grow. But I hope it doesn't become more than half our business because our product sales are growing at a faster clip. And so I really want to see the product sales, see 20, 30% growth year over year, and the service business will come behind that. So I mean, you gotta make a great movie to sell the popcorn at the theater. And so I think getting folks into the technology will definitely help, and then we'll get them on the service side and hopefully in the aftermarket business.
And top line growth is great, but investors want to see profitability as well. And I know you've had a concerted effort to try and get to a point of being cash flow positive and went through a pretty substantial cost reduction last year. Tell us what steps you can take going forward and what your expectations are in terms of being cash flow positive.
Well, the good news is it gets easier as we go. The more units on rent we get, the more units under service contract we get, the more units in the field that we're selling spare parts into. all of that business is high margin reoccurring revenue, which is making our path to cash flow positive shorter and easier every quarter. We're not too far away, probably a year, where our reoccurring revenue is covering our OpEx. And at that point, we're cash flow positive basically every quarter forever, right? As long as we manage our growth the right way. So I think we're definitely getting there. It'll still be choppy for the next few quarters as we come out of COVID, but on the other side of that, I think we're very confident. Then it's really just a battle of how fast you want to grow top line revenue, how much you want to invest in sales and marketing, and managing those operating expenses. But I put our operating expenses up against any of the fuel cell companies or any of the clean tech companies of similar size in our space. We're probably a quarter to a half the OpEx of most folks in our space. Part of that is because we use a distribution channel. And so I've got 7 times more people in my distribution channel than I have in my company. And so we've really built that global distribution channel in 73 countries over the years. And as the business scales, we're going to really see the benefit of that distribution channel.
You also mentioned the new notes program. And as we talk about getting to a point of cash flow positive, you're suddenly now in a better position financially. You've got $30 million worth of cash. How do you see that cash being deployed?
Well, we actually had $32 million at the end of December, and then we recently announced we raised $14.5 million off our ATM, and then we just had a $5 million settlement with a vendor. So our cash position is closer to 50 than it is to 30, which is the best it's been in probably the last 10 years. And so we were EBITDA positive in our first quarter, cash flow positive in our second quarter from operations. So as the business improves, our balance sheet improves, our access to capital gets easier. Our share price was $1 in April, and we're sitting here over $9 today. So I think everything is kind of moving in the right direction, and improving your balance sheet is easier as you execute your business model and your share price reacts accordingly.
Absolutely. Well, you've got a terrific story, and it's certainly one we'll keep an eye on. I want to thank Darren Jamison for taking the time to tell us more about Capstone Turbine and the microturbine products in general. If you want to learn more about Capstone, please go to their website. And if you'd like to see more of our research on the company, please access channelchek.com. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Michael.
Mike, this is a fascinating company, and it seems like it's in a sweet spot right now. How does this company play in this movement towards green energy?
It's very much a green energy. They're primarily using natural gas, and natural gas has less pollutants than many of the other than what's typically used in electric utilities. In addition, as Darren mentioned, they are involved in renewable. So taking bio-waste, sewage treatment, those type of methanes, and using that as an energy source. So it very much is a green company and should benefit under the Biden administration with increased restrictions.
And it seems a little capital intensive. So what are your thoughts about the cash position at this point?
Well, they're in a good cash position. Darren had told me once that they felt under the COVID, they really needed to increase their cash position as kind of a form of protection. They are a startup company, and they've got $50 million worth of debt, which is a little higher than I would like. But now that they've got almost $50 million in cash, it kind of comes across that they're just being conservative. I wouldn't be surprised unless they really run into some new needs for the cash that eventually they start working down that debt position.
So you mentioned that the stock has gone from $1 to $9. And Mike, I was wondering, with all the movement that we've seen in green energy, a lot of these stocks have kind of taken off. Has the stock gotten ahead of its skis at this point?
Well, I don't think so. It's moved up, but it's moved up for good reason. It's really hitting the sweet spot of seeing good top line growth. We mentioned the December quarter had almost 20% year-over-year growth. It's benefiting from the environmental fundamentals, Biden administration, et cetera. At the same time, you've got a company that's worked to stay cash flow positive and reduce some of the financing risk that was associated with the stock. So it's gone up, but it's gone up for good reasons.
Great. Well, thanks for bringing the management to us, Mike. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for this C-Suite interview presentation brought to you by Channelchek. Visit our YouTube channel for more interview content, as well as virtual roadshows and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelchek.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and the 6,000 other small and micro-cap companies listed.